Joining me right now to talk more about that is North Dakota Senator, member of the Senate Armed Services and Budget Committees, Kevin Cramer. Senator, it's great to have you back this morning, and this is such a critical topic. I want to get to the budget issues in a moment, given this now $3 trillion plan that we're talking about. But first, react to what you just saw, because you've got these towns around the borders getting decimated by what's happening. And as you just heard, mayors have no recourse. They just have to sit back and accept it, I guess.
Well, I guess so, Maria. Good morning. I think that, there's got to be a solution. It's got to come quickly. This is a crisis. It's a crisis on many layers. And this, one that Hillary's talking about is sort of a new one that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about. But this is an economic crisis for sure. It's a revenue crisis. It's a jobs crisis. It's a law enforcement crisis. It's a national security crisis. But above all else, it's a humanitarian crisis. And that's the richest irony of the whole thing. These people in the Biden administration, they've sort of created this humanity cause while doing this very inhumane thing by attracting people with really false advertising from Central America to make this long trek, and only paving the way for the traffickers, whether it's drug traffickers, human traffickers, the coyotes. It's just an absolutely awful nightmare that was completely avoidable, and actually was avoided in the previous administration, that now is on steroids.
They clearly own this. Joe Biden owns this. He came in, and immediately used executive orders to overturn the Trump policies that had actually put this issue at least in a better place. Does this become a budget issue? What about that, Senator? Because we're talking about this spending surge all morning. The administration reportedly now considering another package, a $3 trillion spending package, which will be focused on infrastructure, clean energy, and child care, according to the Wall Street Journal this morning. But before talking about how that's going to be paid for, what about the border issue? Does that become a budget issue as well?
Well, it becomes a budget issue in a couple of ways. First of all, it's obviously, this mayor makes the point as beautifully as anybody could. At some point, we need to compensate these border cities and border states if they're the ones that are having to deal with this crisis. We can't simply leave them alone and just let them fend for themselves. As he makes the point, there's not even an NGO in his community. So clearly it becomes a budget problem. Also, you were educating these kids. We are providing health care. It's putting a crunch on our hospitals and clinics and healthcare providers along the border at a time when they can least afford it, by the way. So you've got all those. But the other problem that I see is it pushes wages downward. It provides downward wage pressure because, of course, you're also flooding our market with cheap labor. And while a lot of businesses might like that, at the end of the day, it's going to have a negative impact on our economy, which has a negative impact on our budget.
Well, look, Bernie Sanders is obviously chairman of the Budget Committee. We're talking about now a $3 trillion economic plan. And this is going to be paid for with tax increases. You're going to see the corporate rate, likely one of the taxes that go up, capital gains tax, another tax that goes up. And what about the tax on those people making $200,000 or more? How far down the income scale are we going to go to tax people so that they could raise money for all of their spending ideas?
Well, Maria, I know I don't have to do a lot of talking to convince the people that watch your show that anytime you raise taxes on anybody, particularly on corporate America and on the job creators, you are raising taxes on everybody. I mean, the biggest success of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017 that President Trump shepherded through was reducing those corporate taxes from the highest in the civilized world down to about the mid-range, down to 21%. That's what generated a growing economy for everybody, and disproportionately, if you want to use that term, I guess I am, among the lower and middle income people, because it provided more opportunity. And so all of the taxes that they're talking about raising are going to have that negative impact. But when you get down to the, say families with 400,000 or individuals at 200,000, you're right in the heart of the middle class now, and you're just going to squelch all of the incredible growth that we saw that set this economy up for 3 years, a booming economy, and set it up for the recovery that we're in now. It's the absolute upside down thing to do would be to raise taxes and raise spending. In fact, if we're going to raise spending on some important things like, for example, transportation infrastructure, which has as its primary purpose the profitability of the private sector, and I'm all about that, I'd rather borrow the money than raise taxes and have that further negative impact.
Yeah, but I mean, you're already talking about debt up to $22 trillion.
Right.
Can we just keep borrowing our way out of this as interest rates have begun to move higher?
We cannot, Maria, and I'm just saying that of the two evils, that's the lesser one. No, the reality is we have to find a way to pay for transportation infrastructure, and one of the ways we ought to be looking at, and I'm on the committee, in fact, I chair the subcommittee that oversees it, sees the policy side of it, is we ought to be looking at how does everybody that uses the highway system, the transportation system, pay for it. Right now, it's only the gas tax. The fuel tax, as you know, is going down because fuel consumption is going down. We promote electric vehicles, but they don't pay their way on the highways. We need to broaden that. And I think the other way, Maria, to find more money for transportation that's appropriate is instead of putting a freeze on mining minerals like oil, gas, coal, even critical minerals and rare earth minerals that are in such high demand on our federal lands, let's open up our federal lands. Let's do more, and let's use some of that revenue as well as the economy that grows with it to build a robust transportation infrastructure.
Senator, before you go, real quick, you're on the Budget Committee. What do you believe to be Chairman Bernie Sanders' priority? He's the chairman of the Budget Committee.
Yeah.
What's his priority?
Yeah, in my mind, I think he's got a whole bunch of priorities that lead to one major priority, and that, of course, is the transformation of the American free enterprise system into a socialist system. I think that's pretty clear. There's no amount too high for him, and it's all about soaking the rich, if you will, of course, at the expense of our entire economy.
All right, Senator, we'll be watching. I wasn't expecting that answer. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. Kevin Cramer joining us in Washington. We'll see you soon.